Welcome to Mad Props. I am your host, Chris Schnabel, and today we're going to be doing something a little different but the same. Today we are going to be doing a Major League Baseball preview. Now, I know I'm a little late on that, but we've had some great guests recently and some great experiences to share. And this was one I wasn't sure I was going to do again, but the last two times we've done this, it's been pretty successful. It's actually been some of the most successful solo casts I have done without a guest or a co-host or anything like that. So we're going to try to run it back again. We're going to do a little bit differently. We're going to talk about why this season is going to be so chaotic. We're going to talk about the new automatic ball strike system. We're going to talk about the Dodgers just being a super team, all that kind of stuff. So let's get into it. Let's get rocking. Let's get going. Let's hit the titles. Let's hit the intro and go right into it. This is Mad Props. All right, so baseball season is here. For people that don't know, baseball is my favorite sport. It is my favorite thing to follow. Lifelong Yankees fan. I'm wearing a Yankees hat, but I'm wearing a Magic jersey actually right now. If you are watching, I'm wearing a Desmond Bain jersey as the Orlando Magic try to get ready for the playoffs. A little background on myself. I am a Yankees fan and Orlando Magic fan, so two completely different places. Yankees fan. Yankees were the first team I ever loved. First sport I ever liked, first thing I ever loved was the New York Yankees. Orlando Magic came a little bit after that, early 2000s-ish. I started to get into them. But I will say my favorite fan base to be a part of is the Orlando Magic, whereas the favorite team of all time is the Yankees. So that's the split there. Before we get started today, make sure you follow us on social media at MadPropsPod on Instagram, TikTok, and X/Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube. Give us a like, give us a comment. Let us know your opinions of this episode as it comes to a close. If you'd like, you can also subscribe to us wherever you get your podcast. That helps the podcast more than you can imagine. You get updates when we have new episodes. I have a lot of new plans for a lot of different episodes coming up, not only with guests that we have lined up, but also some solo ones and some other ideas that we have coming up. So you're not going to want to miss anything. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Going into why we're doing another solo cast, which last week we'll get into in a second, we did solo cast. This week we're doing another solo cast. We have been looking for guests, but I have been a little bit under the weather of late. So it's been hard for me to gather up these guests. My follow-ups have been a little delayed. And then a couple people had to cancel on us. So it's just been a little bit of a pause with getting guests. Not that we're not getting them. Not that we don't actually have some in the pipeline. We do actually have some ready to go. It's just been my own thing going on. But I don't want to also not get out episodes. So I make sure that I get some episodes out there. And I have some fun ideas. I've actually been thinking of solo podcast ideas for a little while now because I've had these times where I have to go into solo podcasts. I don't want to just be talking into a camera kind of thing. It's just not that interesting. So I wanted to come up with different ideas. We have some really fun ideas in the bank right now that I'm currently working on, that are recorded and working on. And then I have ideas like this where we've done a couple of baseball episodes in the past, and they've been successful. We've had some good social media interaction off of them. So we thought we'd bring it back and do it again. This time, we'll go over a couple things like who I think might win some awards. Probably not too many awards. More about the shifting of what baseball is becoming and the impending future of baseball as well. Speaking of the solo episode, if you didn't see it, last week we released an episode about my experience playing at the Kia Center. That's the home of the Orlando Magic. Broke down me walking into the stadium, getting on the court, all that stuff in detail. So if you want to hear more about that, go ahead and click the last episode of this after you listen to this or before you listen to this, however you want to do it. And then you can pop back over here. If you want to hear more about baseball, by the way, the Crosstown 9 podcast is now available on all platforms. That is myself and my co-host John. Like, we break down the Yankees. We a little bit break down the Mets. We might be switching up the formula. We might be adding to the formula. I'm not sure yet. A couple episodes out of that. We did miss last week's episode, again, because I'm dealing with my own stuff here, my own health stuff, that we missed an episode last week, but you can catch that there. Something that we didn't miss episodes of, there were 2 episodes of sketching up last week. One to give a review of the Mario movie, and then another one to talk about The Boys and Invincible and all that stuff. Go check those out. I will say when Invincible comes to an end, I may do a big retrospective right here on Mad Props because I've been rereading the comics recently, and also the season's almost over of Invincible for this new season. So I might do a whole breakdown of the comic versus the comic versus the cartoon. Not sure yet because you can get that in 1,000 places, but it is one of my favorite comics of all time. So we do have that there as well. All right. Enough talking at you. Let's get into the action a little bit. Make sure you follow us, subscribe to us, all that fun stuff. Before we get into baseball, though, actually, I did have one more thing. I've been rewatching Scrubs, the old Scrubs, because of the new Scrubs. The Ava Bunn came on recently. If you haven't checked that one out, she came on a few weeks ago. Definitely check that out. She's been fantastic in the show so far. She plays Sam Tosh. And the latest episode, I should say, from this release date of this podcast very much was centric around her. She didn't have the A line, but she had like kind of the B storyline, her and Dr. Reed, and how Dr. Reed's a little bit more like Dr. Cox than you would have thought, and how she treats people more like that, but you really can't do that anymore. It's kind of an old way of practice. It was really, really good. So far, that series is unbelievably good. They have said that season 9, the med school, whatever they called it, the one that was supposed to be the spinoff, but ABC said we want it to just be a continuation. But Bill Lawrence is like, I don't want it to be a continuation. That whole thing. That's a video for another day if we wanted to. But there was a whole thing where Bill Lawrence, the creator, said no, and ABC said we have to do it because we want to do it this way. So they ended up making it that. But you know, when Bill Lawrence's name comes up, it says med school at the bottom to try to differentiate from the old and the new. They have said that's not canon to this new is it a series? I guess we'll call it season 10 at this point, but it's supposed to be a continuation of the series itself, just set obviously whatever 15 years later because the last episode was that long ago. And it's really done a good job of picking up. A little bit corny at times. I've been rewatching the old one and it's definitely corny, but like it's almost like a new age corny where it's old corny in a new format, which if you watch a lot of TV, especially new and old TV, you might understand what I'm saying there. Like when things were corny in the 2000s, they kind of fit into it, right? Like it actually fit into the time period, into the show. Now when it's like old corny, 2000s corny in 2026, it's like, it just doesn't hit the same. They've done a good job of not overdoing that and balancing and all that. But I have noticed there's a lot of corniness in this new one that sometimes I'm like, oh, okay. But the series itself has been great. I'm not going to spoil anything because this isn't a breakdown of Scrubs. I just wanted to say it before we got into baseball. The last episode, like, had me on the edge of tears. That was unbelievable stuff. So if you haven't seen it, go check it out. Go check out Ava. She is fantastic in it. She also has a bunch of comedy shows coming up, so go check those out too. If you want to go check those out, you're more than welcome to, I guess. But besides the point, go check out Scrubs. It's been great. Anyway, that's not the point of this episode. This episode is going to talk about baseball. One thing in baseball that's really going on is the new guard is like officially here. This isn't a guys coming up, guys going down, but the new faces of baseball are here. And I'm not talking about the Otanis and the Judges, which is funny because they seem like the new guard, but they're not. You know, Judge has been around since 2016. Shohei is about the same. I think they're both around 2016. Shohei may have been just before Judge, but they're both like 30 now, in their 30s. Judge is a little bit into his 30s now. So they've been around for a little while. Even the guys like Bryce Harper is actually younger than Aaron Judge, and has been around longer than Aaron Judge. But for people that don't know, Bryce Harper was like a child prodigy that was on the cover of Sports Illustrated when he was in high school and was supposed to be Bryce Harper, and then he ended up being Bryce Harper. That does not happen often. So that's like, again, when he retires, man, the story behind Bryce Harper, a guy that was supposed to be one of the best baseball players of our time and then became one of the best baseball players of our time, is something that doesn't get talked about enough. But Bryce Harper, like, these guys are all in their 30s, but the new guard, like, the Ellie De La Cruz, the Gunnar Hendersons, the Bobby Witts. Bobby Witt could definitely be in there. Corbin Carroll, though Corbin Carroll's not really showing right now. Versus like the old going kind of at the back on the back nine, like Mike Trout is a great example, who started off hot and then got hit in the hand. Of course, that's the story of his career. If he doesn't make the Hall, which I think, in my opinion, he's a shoo-in, but he may not make the Hall of Fame. And it would be because of injuries. And some of them are his body breaking down. Some of them are freak injuries. But you know what? They say when you're someone that's injured, you're injured, right? Like there's no, sometimes it's a freak injury, but it happens to the guy that's always injured. It's not like this guy that never got hurt before has a freak injury. Like when Kobe tore his Achilles or when Brady tore his ACL, like those are kind of freak injuries because those guys never get hurt. Like, yeah, something caused it, but they never get hurt. But like a guy like Mike Trout, like he would be the one you'd say, oh, he tore his Achilles or he tore his ACL or he got hit by a pitch and broke his hand. Of course it would be Mike Trout because he's always out. But he's on the back nine, definitely. Mookie Betts is one that really doesn't get talked about. Mookie Betts is very much on the back nine, so much so that he had a pretty down year for him last year. Now, he's definitely not in his prime anymore. But if you looked at his stats, I don't even think he hit 20 home runs last year. He way under 300. They moved him to shortstop, which is a very strange thing. You would think he'd be moved to right or, sometimes they get moved to first. Like Cody Bellinger is in center, but he got moved to first. Now he's in left. But he's playing shortstop for the Dodgers, but his production just doesn't fit the shortstop anymore. It's not, Tatis has better production. I mean, Tatis isn't a shortstop anymore either. It's so confusing now. Nobody's a shortstop that was a shortstop. But we just talked about Gunnar Henderson, Ellie De La Cruz. Like, these guys have real production out of shortstop. Even, like, the secondary shortstops have a lot more production than that. So Mookie Betts not having the production he had when he was, like, a center fielder, right fielder, it makes it kind of strange because he's still playing shortstop for the Dodgers, which we'll get into the Dodgers in a little bit. Freddie Freeman's also another Dodger. Like I said, we'll get into them in a little bit, but he's definitely on the back nine as well of his career. I just think the Freddie Freeman, some of the Dodgers stories are hilarious. The one that doesn't get talked about anymore is the Shohei thing, like illegally making bets, getting it covered up because he's the greatest baseball player to ever touch soil, and for him to get kicked out of the sport would be the biggest news story of all time. Not only that, it's like a news story from 1920. You would think it's from like the 1920s. Like, this guy was the best player of all time, but he got kicked out for betting on himself or betting on sports or something like that. But I truly think that Shohei was not innocent of this whole thing. It's a strong opinion, and I'm glad that he's still in the league because he is the best player in the entire on the planet. But there's just no way he's innocent in this all. But it gets covered up because you can't have Shohei Ohtani not be playing baseball. Like, while he's still alive and healthy and active, he has to be on a baseball field. And it's just wild that story doesn't even get talked about anymore. Like, the interpreter stuff doesn't even get talked about anymore because everyone's moved past it. Everyone's just moved past that happened. But that's a crazy story that no one talks about anymore. No one talks about the Freddie Freeman story with his agent. So when Freddie Freeman, and I don't have the story in front of me, but Freddie Freeman, when he signed with the Dodgers, apparently he signed with the Dodgers because his agent didn't tell him that the Braves offered a deal because the deal was less than what the Dodgers offered. But the agent wanted the more money, so they told him about that, and they agreed to sign with the Dodgers. And then Freddie Freeman later finds out that the Braves tried to re-sign him, and if he would have known that, he would have signed to stay with the Braves for the rest of his career. And he was so upset, he fired his agent. Well, I'll tell you right now, know who's not upset about the decision anymore? Freddie Freeman, because he's gotten paid way more than he would have with the Braves. He's won 2 World Series, so now he has 3 World Series because he won one. With the Dodgers. He's won 2 with the Dodgers, 1 with the Braves. So he has 3 World Series rings. If someone doesn't care about it anymore, it's him. So the story that no one talks about anymore that I don't get is not the whole agent part of it. Like, that's fine. It's an old story. The part no one talks about is that he fired him, and I don't think he would do that today. Like, if he were to sign with the Dodgers and been like, listen, I know you could have signed with the Braves, and I get he fired him because he didn't tell him. That makes sense. You got to tell him all the offers. It's got to be illegal, whatever. But if you were to go like, you're going to sign this deal, and when you sign this deal, you're going to win 2+ World Series. You might win another one. You're going to have a walk-off grand slam. You're going to have a moment in the World Series, right? You're going to live in infamy for the walk-off grand slam. And you're going to be paid more than any team would have paid you. No one's going to pay you the same amount that these guys are going to pay you. If all that was told to him before, like, this is the future for you, he probably wouldn't have cared. But the fact that he now had to leave his team that he got drafted by and played for, won an MVP with, won a World Series with, all that stuff, like, it's just crazy that no one talks about how he fired him and now, like, is happy where he is. Like, you got to adjust to where you are, but I just think it's funny that that story is not talked about, how he did that. But I kind of went from the new guard to the old guard to some stories that I think are crazy that no one talks about anymore. And I was going to save this for later in the podcast, but the one that no one's talking about but everyone's talking about is how baseball is at an all-time high of popularity recently. We'll call that recently because an all-time high. They had higher popularity moments, definitely. But like in the last 25-ish years, this might be the highest we've been since the steroid era, right? This is the highest we've been. Guys are getting paid way more than anybody in any sport. All baseball contracts are fully guaranteed. So, like, when Kyle Tucker's getting $60 million, unless they defer it, which the Dodgers like to do, he's getting paid $60 million a year with opt-outs and all this other garbage. The people watching the World Series last year was the most viewed World Series in a really long time. One of the highest championships, and not named the Super Bowl, right? Like, the popularity of the sport is at an all-time high. Aaron Judge is, like, named in, like, top athletes in the world. Shohei Ohtani is named the top athletes in the world. Like, they're up there with some of these NBA players, some of these NFL players that have their name all over the place, right? Just to, at the end of the season, go right into a labor dispute, which baseball loves to do the lockout. If baseball goes a whole season, successfully goes a whole season, continues to climb, and then locks out next year, I may stop watching the sport because they have the momentum they lost. A few years ago, I would tell people I watch baseball, and they would look at me like I watch, like, Australian cricket. Like, nobody watches it. So why are we going to just screw ourselves over by locking out when we are back where we were? We're getting back to where we were. It's becoming one of the more popular sports. It's right up there. Just to throw it all away because of a labor dispute. The reason they're going to have the labor dispute is because of what we just talked about. Kyle Tucker's making $60 million a year. Shohei Ohtani is getting paid $2 million a year, with the other, what was it, $68 million or something like that a year is getting deferred. And they're putting that into a deferred savings, which is then making money, so he'll make even more money. But in reality, he's making $2 million a year. So when they go to try to buy more people, it's not hitting the salary cap. So they're not going into these absolutely obscure places for money and for players, and they can get Ohtani, then they get Freeman, then they get Diaz, then they get Tucker. Like, that's why they're able to do that, because they deferred that money, so it's not really actually affecting them right now. But those contracts are the reason that we're going to have a dispute. someone is close. We're only a couple hundred million away from someone making $1 billion. $1 billion from playing baseball. There's no way ownership's going to let that happen because the ROI is not going to be there. Like someone might say, like the return on investment is. That's why we saw Kyle Tucker. He's like on a 4-year deal with a 1-year opt out or a 2-year opt out, like all this stuff. Because at the end of the day, like it's not going to be worth the Dodgers to have him for that long. They kind of flipped the script a little bit. They went from having guys on these ginormous contracts, where at the end of it, it's like having a cancer on your team salary wise. Like in the beginning, they get paid $15 million, and at the end, they're getting paid $42 million, and they're old and they're not good anymore. The Miguel Cabreras, the Albert Pujols, these types of players. Now owners are like, let's just get that out of the way now. Hope they're in their prime and just blow all the money on this person. And the Dodgers are really the first ones to try this. Instead of going for Kyle Tucker on a giant deal, they go 4 years, bunch of opt-outs, $60 million a year, boom, done. And then hopefully he's in his prime, and we'll pick him up, and we'll just have him during his prime, and then off the books, done. Well, if that's going to happen, the players are going to be upset, because the players don't want 4 years, especially with opt-outs. The reason the players love these long contracts, you see guys like Bobby Witt, the shortstop that just was called up for the I believe Bubba Chandler, the one that was just called up for the Pirates, just signed a long-term deal. Even in Colorado, Tovar, their shortstop, who's not really a household name by any means, he's definitely their best player, but that's not saying much. He signed a long-term deal. The reason these guys will do that, even though it might be $15 million, Julio Rodriguez, I think he makes like $15 to $20 million a year. If you went on the open market right now, you're talking $45 million a year for Julio Rodriguez. But they sign these deals because they'll sign a 10-year deal worth $300 million. That means for 10 years, they will be making millions of dollars because baseball is completely guaranteed. But that's why the Dodgers needed to make the opt-outs, because they can't have 4 years at $60 a year guaranteed. So there has to be opt-outs. Well, then why even guarantee the money? But that's why you'll see some of these players lock themselves in with teams. They don't care who it is, because they will be making X amount for this long no matter what. The teams benefit because they get a little bit of a discount. I think Bobby Witt's like 24. Like I said, Julio's like 20 million a year I'm talking about. But for the player, for the next 8, 10, 12 years, they know they're getting $20 million a year. Julio Rodriguez can go out, tear his ACL, never be able to play again. They'll have to work a deal, but he will be paid the rest of his contract, because it's not his contract, an injury, blah, blah, blah. The insurance will probably, to be honest, the insurance will probably be paying for it. But more likely than not, he'll just be on the IR all this season, next season, kind of like what Chris Bryant's doing. Anthony Rendon, in a way, did. Obviously, he did a little more than that. But a lot of these guys that you've seen sign these big contracts, but you never actually see play baseball, that's more of what I think we're going to see. That's what these guys can do. I confused myself. That's more what these guys can do because they're locked in. The contract's there, and they're guaranteed till this time. They don't have to worry about money. They don't have to worry about a future, because the future is there for the next 10 years. So the labor dispute is going to come from higher salaries, lower contracts. You're going to clash. They're going to lock out. Baseball's going to die, and I'm going to be sad. But I'm not going to go too much more into that. I think I said everything I could say about that. God. There's always something with baseball. There's always something. How about some sleeper teams? Let's go into actual baseball stuff. Everybody's sleeper team is the Pittsburgh Pirates. I do agree. I think they could be a sleeper team. I think they have a really good pitching staff. They have a young core. and they had a couple. They had a couple of like under the radar signing. Like Brandon Lowe is really good. I like Brandon Lowe a lot. I know, like I said, the season's already started. He has like 5 or 6 home runs already. But overall, I think he's a pretty good player, and he went pretty under the radar overall. I think they have Marcelo Zuna as well. They have some good players there, but their pitching staff is ridiculous. They have, the best pitcher probably in baseball, and Paul Skeens. Jared Jones is really good as well. They have a couple guys that are coming up that are pretty good, and they're just a good young team. Do I think they're going to win the World Series? No. Do I think they're going to make the playoffs? Probably not. But could they be a wild card team? Absolutely. And I would love, love, love to see Paul Skeens pitching in a wild card game, because just him in the playoffs would be awesome. A winner go home game would be awesome. He should have probably started. I know he started the semifinal game. He probably should have started the final game, and Scooble should have started the semifinal game. You can hear that in the Crosstown 9. We kind of talk about it, but I'll just say quickly. Scooble left Team USA to pitch a spring training game that was the day before the U.S.'s semifinal game, meaning he should have just skipped the spring training start, pitched the next one. It might have been flipped. It might have been the day after. Could have pitched that one instead of the spring training start and then left and did whatever he had to do. The fact that he went, pitched that game, then came, showed up, didn't do anything, and they lost, he should be ashamed of himself. I do not want to see him on Team USA next year. Anyhow, I would love to see Skeens in a big-time moment like that, and as it continues to go, and whether he stays with the Pirates or ends up somewhere else, seeing him in big moments could be awesome because he showed that he could do it. He's an awesome pitcher. My real sleeper team is the L.A. Angels of Anaheim. Worst name in all of sports, but I think it's kind of funny to me. I don't think there's anything there that really screams they are a sleeper team, other than I think Trout's going to be good this year. I know he got hurt. I love Mike Trout. I think he knows it's almost over. So he needs to get one more postseason push. He only has one ever in his career. He's been to one postseason. Unbelievable to think of. He needs to have a postseason push. I think they've unlocked Joe Adell. The dude has been up and down through the minors. He's not looked great in the majors. He's been up and down, but I think they're finally figuring him out. They finally got a role for him. The pitching's looked pretty good so far. I don't think their pitching's anything crazy. The reason I say the LA Angels, it's totally a narrative thing. One, they're always written off. Every season, they are the ones people write off. They're not going to make it, blah, blah, blah. But there's another narrative as well. The owner is trying to move them to a different location. And the town government, it might be the state government, but I believe it's the Anaheim government, has put a rule for approval for if they want their new stadium, they have to be the Anaheim Angels. And the owner does not want to be the Anaheim Angels. So much so, they don't even put of Anaheim on anything anymore. They're legally supposed to, but they do not do it. They're trying to get away from the Anaheim thing. But the city of Anaheim is like, this is where you play. What do you want from us? So I think the narrative of they're always the underdog. Even the city is having a back and forth with them. The fans are rallying behind the team because they're trying to show that Anaheim loves the team, and I think the team is going to perform. I think they're going to make a playoff spot. I think they're going to be a wild card team. From there, we'll see. But I think they're going to have a much better year than people think, and I hope in a couple of months I can come back to this and say, told you so, but we'll see. The narrative is always that they're going to stink. So we'll see from there. A couple more baseball things that I have here. I have a top 5 list. So one of the last times I did, I think it was 2 times ago that I've done this. I did a top 5 closer entrances that in baseball all time, and it did pretty well as a social clip. But it made me want to do another one. I didn't want to do the closer one again because I've done it once. I could have done part 2, I guess, but that doesn't really make any sense. So instead, I did the top 5 electric moments. Hold on, let me say this again. The top 5 electric moments in base. The top 5 I'm keeping all this in. Not editing any of this out, just so you know. If you're listening, this was me trying to read and think at the same time. I'm going to do the top 5 electric moments since 2010. So 26 years. Crazy to think so. By the way, 1 year after this list started, I graduated high school. So that's a long time ago. I was in high school. Anyway, we're going to do the top 5 moments. I do have an honorable mention. We're going to start with the honorable mention. So the honorable mention of this list is Shohei Ohtani striking out Mike Trout in the 2023 World Baseball Classic. Now, why is it an honorable mention? It is a baseball moment. It's not really an MLB moment, but it probably was the best moment of the World Baseball Classic, maybe ever. Trey Turner's home run is up there. Adam Jones's catch is up there. There's a lot of different moments that could go into that list, but that moment was even Venezuela just winning was a big time moment, right? But that moment of Trout, who was still considered Mike Trout, healthy, was pretty good. I don't actually know if he was pretty good or not in the World Baseball Classic or not. I don't even remember. But the fact that it was Trout versus Ohtani, it would have been like if it was Judge versus Ohtani, by the way, for the final out. That would have been insane, but it wasn't. Anyway, Shohei versus Trout is the honorable mention. So my number 5, I don't know if I said most electric moments, most memorable moments. I wanted to put this one in here. It's not really electric, but it was a big time moment, especially for my eyes. 2016, D. Gordon hitting the leadoff home run after Jose Fernandez tragically passed away. A little bit of context: Jose Fernandez was a pitcher for the Marlins who was unreal. Was going to be the best pitcher in baseball for a long time. Think Paul Skeens, but more fire. For people that don't know who Jose Fernandez is. Towards the end of the season, he had one more start. And then he was doing on a boat. Leave the details to the online searchers, but crashed the boat, killed him, killed his friends. It was during the season. They canceled the game that night. In the first game back, they all wore Fernandez jerseys. And D. Gordon, who was very close to Jose Fernandez, led off the game. He started in the right-hand batter's box with, I believe, Fernandez's bat or his helmet or something like that. Doesn't matter. Started in the right-hand batter's box, took a strike. And then the next pitch, D. Gordon sent over the wall. It was an unbelievable moment. Tears were flying. Just a really crazy, only happens in baseball type moment. But I had to put that on the list. I put it as number 5. Argue if you want. I think that needs to be number 5. Number 4, maybe a little bias here. 2014, Derek Jeter's final game at Yankee Stadium, walk-off base hit. That's baseball. You just can't script it any better. Chance to win the game, final game at Yankee Stadium for the man who really brought the Yankees back to the promised land. I mean, they were good in the 70s. They were awful in the 80s, postseason-wise. Funny enough, they had the best record, the most wins of the 80s, but they never went to a World Series, never won a World Series until Jeter came along. Face of the Yankees, everyone loved him. For him to hit that walk-off base hit, in Jeter fashion too, that opposite field line drive, it's just, you can't really write stories like that. That's just something only happens in baseball, like to a T, exactly how it happens. Funny enough, people don't really remember, Fenway Park was his last game. He hit a dribbler up the third base line that he beat out and was taken out of the game. That was actually his final hit, a dribbler up the third base line at Fenway Park, taken out of the game. They gave, a standing ovation, which was awesome for Fenway Park. You could say whatever you want, Red Sox fans. And the rivalry is not as deep as it used to be, but even then, it was pretty deep then, 2014. People hated each other. And the Red Sox, just like Yankees fans, whether they want to admit it or not, have some sort of respect for David Ortiz. Same thing on the other side. Respect for Derek Jeter was shown that day, and it was amazing. But that walk-off base hit had me going crazy at the time. Did not get to go to that one. Got to go to Mariano's final game, which is really cool. Number 3, Might be a little controversial because a lot of people would say it should be number one because I said this is electricity. But Jose Bautista's bat flip in 2015, it's probably the most memorable home run of the last, probably since Bonds' record-breaking home run. I don't think there's another home run that even remotely comes close to it. It's crazy to think it was over 10 years ago that happened. But if you think about home runs in the World Series, you think about home runs in the postseason, you think about any of those, I don't think anything comes close to it. I can't remember another one that comes close to it. I'd say Bonds' record breaker. Maybe today it's not as famous, but especially growing up and even to today, it's still pretty big. The reason you don't see Bonds' as much is because baseball tries to stay away from Barry Bonds. So what are you going to do? But I have that as number 3. Number 2, I think it's his most iconic call of his career. David Freese's walk-off home run in 2011. We'll see you tomorrow night. That was by Joe Buck, who called that one. A lot of people don't like Joe Buck. I absolutely love Joe Buck. His book was amazing. I had the opportunity to tell him I loved his book. But I do like Joe Buck, and that moment I put above the Bautista because it was a walk-off home run. It sent it to a Game 7. It was in the World Series. And I still remember how electric that was. I was not a fan of either team, and I still remember like the electricity behind that. And I was just watching on TV. Now fans, no one's celebrating, but you could feel how big of a moment that was. And David Freese is a postseason hero, so much so that in old baseball podcasts we used to have the David Freese Award. The only reason I think of that is because I picked Chris Taylor one year and he hit a home run with the first pitch, and I was like, wow, I'm a genius. But I think the Astros won that World Series. Anyway, my number 1 moment, electric moment in the last 26 years since 2010 has to be when the Cubs won the World Series. The Cubs didn't win a World Series in 108 years. They've been close a couple times. They've had some crazy, unfortunate things happen to them in that time, including Moises Alou saying he couldn't catch that ball. That's a story for a different day, but Steve Bartman catches the foul ball. Then everything unravels. They blame Steve Bartman. He can't show his face for the rest of his life, basically. Now he's been able to show his face again. I think they gave him a World Series ring, all that stuff. And then Moises Alou went on some podcast or some show and ended up saying, I wouldn't have been able to catch it anyway. It was out of my reach. What a douche. But anyway, the Cubs winning the World Series for their first time in 108 years. You can honestly pick a couple of moments from that. I don't think the Zobrist double would be up there, but the Rajai Davis home run off Chapman would definitely be up there, especially if they won the World Series. But the Cubs winning the World Series for the first time, I can still picture every moment of it, from Chris Bryant getting the ground ball, throwing it to Anthony Rizzo throwing the ball in his back pocket, knowing what just happened. Everything about it was unbelievable, and it's got to be one of the top moments in the last 26 years. And I think it's the most electric moment because it hasn't happened since, and it didn't happen for over 100 years before that. So you gotta respect when respect is due. So that's my top. That is my top moments. Let me know what you guys think if you want in the comments below, or whatever. Yell at your screen and be a ghost. I don't really care. Before we wrap up, I'm going to go over some postseason awards that I think are going to happen. So we'll go over my MVP picks. We'll go over my World Series pick and one bold prediction. I already kind of gave a bold prediction because, my one bold prediction could have been the LA Angels, but I think I'm going to pick somebody else to be a really bold prediction here. My MVP picks are going to be boring. I think it's going to be Shohei and Judge again. Why do I think that? Well, besides what MLB wants you to think, because they do not stop glazing Bobby Witt Jr., they're just the 2 best players on the planet right now. Judge is off to a little bit of a slow start. I honestly don't off the top of my head know what Shohei Ohtani is doing, but I'm sure he's doing really well. Judge hit another home run right before I started this podcast recording. By the time it's out, his last at bat will have been a home run by the time this releases. They're just like I said, the 2 best players. I think with Judge, the Yankees are a whole thing, but I actually think they gave him a little bit more protection by bringing back Grisham and bringing back Bellinger. And I think the hot start by Giancarlo Stanton really gives Aaron Judge a lot of protection which means they have to throw to him, which means he's going to see more pitches. And the more he warms up, the better he's just going to be. I think being at the World Baseball Classic helped. He had more actual at-bats early on, so that's going to be really good. My World Series pick. I'm going to give you who I actually think, and then I'm going to give you who I want to think. I would like the New York Yankees to finally get over the hump, but probably it's going to be the Dodgers again. I would love the Yankees to get over the hump because I'm a Yankees fan, but I also think they're kind of due now to do it. They're going to have the best roster they've had in a long time, which isn't saying too much. And I say that because I think the hitting is going to come around. I think they're going to go out and get one more bat. I think it's going to be a shortstop personally, but it could be a different position. And they have their best hitting first baseman in a long time, Ben Rice, he's legit. Jazz Chisholm's going to come around. I think they're going to go get a shortstop. Ryan McMahon's going to give you 250 average, 20 home runs. That's all they need because he's an elite defensive third baseman. Austin Wells is going to be fine behind the plate. Judge, not going to go into that. Grisham looks pretty legit so far. And then Bellinger's also pretty legit. And Stanton's been hot, so he'll be out for the middle of the season probably, but then he'll be back, and we know he crushes in the postseason. So overall, they probably have the best roster hitting-wise. But also on the flip side, Schlittler's been really good. He's obviously an actual pitcher. He could be a top-of-the-rotation guy. Max Fried is an ace. They're getting back Clark Schmidt. They're getting back Carlos Rendon. And they're getting back Garrett Cole. That means Luis Gil, Will Warren are going to the pen to go with Bendar and Cruz. They have a good roster. They might need to get a reliever, and they probably need to get a shortstop. But this team is legit. Even with the team they have, even with the players they have now, this team is legit. And I think this is the year they really have to do it. Even the year they went to the World Series and lost, I don't think that was the best team they put together. Actually, we called out a lot of flaws on that team back then. But this team, I think, has the capability to do it. They just need to make a couple of adjustments. So that's what I think about the Yankees. The reason I say the Dodgers is because they're back-to-back champions, and all they did was get stronger. They needed an outfield bat. They got Kyle Tucker. They needed someone reliable out of the bullpen. They got Edwin Diaz. They literally got the two best people you can get. Their rotation is really good. Their sixth and seventh starters would be threes and fours on other teams. A couple of the Japanese starters they've gotten haven't been great, but they're going to get better. Even if they're not, maybe they're not all Yamamoto, but they're all going to be pretty good. Even if you have to throw them in the pen, that makes them even better. They're just an overall good team. It's hard for me to say any other team, so that's not the fun one, but that's what I got to go with. My bold prediction. I think the A's are going to finish over 500. Why I think that's bold is because the A's are not that good. They do have friend of the show, Brett Harris, on the team, but they are playing like the stadium they play in, which is a minor league stadium for people that don't know. I think they're going to be pretty good. I don't think they're going to be great. I don't think they're going to be world beaters, but they showed against the Yankees and they've shown against the Mets that they're going to be a good team. And I think they have a lot of good young players. The problem is they're not going to make the playoffs because they're going to have good players. They're going to get the trade deadline. They're going to get rid of all of them. They're getting ready to move. I think they have another year or two in Sacramento, and then they're going to Las Vegas. They're trying to get as many young players as they can, and they're trying to keep the payroll as low as they can. Because if they can do both those things, mind you, Severino, I believe's contract runs out when they move to Vegas. Then they can go swing for some big bats, big gloves, big pitching, and really have something to put on the poster. Who knows? Maybe they go after Scooble, who's done after this year with the Tigers. They might go after some of these other young players that are going to be 26, and they're going to be ready to, not because they're 26, but that's usually the timeline, they'll be ready to be free agents. And they're going to go after those guys. They're going to get a couple of big-time names when they move to Vegas because they need to put something on the billboards when they get to Vegas. And I'm telling you now, they're putting out a AAA to quadruple A team every week because they need to have that money left over. They're not going to go spend big money until they have to, and they don't have to until they get out of Sacramento. But I think they have a decent team overall. That's the funny thing. Like, they've been doing this for so long. They actually have players that are legitimately pretty good. So I think that they're going to keep some of those players. Lawrence Butler. Lawrence Butler, I'm not sure. They might try to trade him while he has. Like Kurtz, though, will definitely keep. Rooker's gone. He's going to be traded. But they'll trade some of those guys, bring in more prospects, try to put the best prospect team out there they can, get them as many reps as possible. They don't even care that they're starting the clock. Start the clock now. As many reps as possible. Maybe you find a diamond in the rough. And then you get to when you're in Vegas, you go swing big. You get some big-time names. You got big-time guy to put here, big-time guy to put here, diamond in the rough that's been with the Ace in Sacramento. Put them on the billboard, sell your tickets. That's what the A's are doing. Is it great baseball? No. Is it great franchise building? No. Is it good for marketing? Sure. Why not? Every team needs someone to market. You get Scooble every fifth day. You're having a crowd out there to see Trevor Scooble, right? Like you go get, they're not going to get him, but like a Bryce Harper type. I'm not going to say they're going to get Bryce Harper, but let's say a Bryce Harper type or a Juan Soto type, a guy that's 26 years old that's going to be given a giant contract because he's a generational player. Maybe they get Kyle Tucker. Kyle Tucker's like 30. He's definitely going to go back in free agency in a year or two. They'll be going to Sacramento at the time. Maybe they go get someone like him. You get someone you can put on the billboard that you can put in the A's hat with a bat on their shoulder that says, "Get your season tickets now," because that's what they're going to need. But anyway, that's my bold prediction. I actually think they're going to be pretty good. They have some good prospects put together. They haven't put together a great team, but they put together great prospects so far. So that's what I think there. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you for watching. Again, make sure you subscribe to the channel here at Mad Props Pod on YouTube, or go find us anywhere you get your podcasts and subscribe to us there. Just give us a like. Give us a comment. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Whatever you want. Give us a comment below because we want to know what you guys think, and I want to hear from you guys as well. Make sure you follow us on social media as well, at Mad Props Pod on TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, and IG, Instagram. Make sure you check out the Crosstown 9 podcast. Make sure you check out Sketching Up podcast as well. We got a couple new episodes of those coming out this week. Thank you guys so much. Let's go Yankees. In another episode, we'll see you next time on Mad Props. See you on Monday. Have a good week, everybody. Deuces.